Hello, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
So I was just wondering,
Mm-hmm.
that sign says that like you need appointment or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay. So you don't do walk-ins or anything like that?
We don't, unfortunately. Do you just want to pop in for a second?
Okay, all right.
What was your legal issue?
So can you actually tell me, I'm kind of new to this, like what this place is about?
Sure. So there's two kind of organizations in here. So one is public legal information, and so Plian is what we say for short. They try to increase access to justice for folks in Newfoundland and Labrador through educating them about the law. So it's about plain language legal information for any legal issue. And then the Journey Project specifically is to support survivors of gender-based violence, so sexual violence and intimate partner violence, with their legal issues. So those are kind of like, so Journey is really specific to survivors of gender-based violence, but Plan could potentially be any legal issue.
Yeah, so Plian is any legal issue. Yeah.
Yes.
So that would be maybe, for example, like if someone couldn't afford like a lawyer, for example, right?
Could be, yep. And
Yeah.
so Plan runs a lawyer referral service. And so it's a little bit more accessible. So some of the questions we can answer in house, or like the Plan staff can, because I'm with the Journey Project. Some of them they can just provide the legal information and answer. Otherwise, we do run a or a lawyer referral service where you can do 30-minute consultations for $40.
30,
Minutes?
30 minutes for $40.
Yeah.
Okay. And is it just like, is it only that one 30 minutes?
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
But the services at Plan, like if you make an appointment to chat with either Gareth or Sarah, who's our staff kind of on this side that do the general legal questions, you can call them anytime, or you can make an appointment if you'd prefer to meet with them in person. That's free. So all of our services are free of charge. So we help people as best we can here, and then if people need legal advice, then we refer them out to private practice lawyers.
Oh, okay. So let's just say, for example, if someone couldn't afford a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and for whatever reason it didn't work out for them to do legal aid or anything
Yeah,
like that,
that
and then
happens.
they had a case that required, a regular amount of assistance,
Yeah.
right? Like, do you help people with like cases that are more kind of longer, or?
Sure. So we don't take on any cases ourselves,
Yeah.
because while we have folks that work here that have a legal background, they're not practicing lawyers. So we can't take on anyone's case, but we do encourage folks to call us as many times as they need to get their questions answered, and we do the best that we can with that. So if it would be helpful, and you do have general legal questions, like Sarah's not in today and Gareth is on phones, and so
Yeah.
he can't meet in this moment, but I can grab his business card so you can reach out to him directly
Yeah.
to chat about whatever it is that's going on.
So if someone had like a case, sorry, to be a little bit repetitive.
No, that's
So
okay.
if someone had a case that required, you know, quite a few months, maybe over a year,
Mm.
or something like that, right? And this person had no idea about like ongoings about the law, or
Yeah.
courts or anything like that. So they needed help like
Yep.
that. Like, could you help someone over the course of like almost a year?
So Plan doesn't do like case management or take on cases in particular, but folks could call at any point during their legal process. There's a lot of people that reach out to us here at Plan who like are self-representing in whether it's like family court or criminal court, and so like we'll do our best to kind of answer their questions that they have at each stage.
Okay.
Is it a particular area of law that
So,
the person has questions about?
so actually, I'm a journalist.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and so part of what I do as a journalist is, I do stories, right?
Yeah.
And so, whether it's sometimes I go to the courthouse,
Yep.
the Supreme Court,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to remember that a lot of people don't know this, that like there are certain places that are considered private, like let's say a Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
or TD Bank or something
Yep.
like that. But then there's other places that are considered public. So
Mm-hmm.
public is considered anything that's government funded or anything like that, right? So
Okay.
for example, like a lot of the times I do stories on institutions that are publicly funded, right? And so I go to the courthouse, the Supreme Court,
Yep.
and the guards there are very knowledgeable. They're like, everything is open. People are allowed to film, the court proceedings,
Yeah.
the everyone involved, that type of thing, right? So this organization is also publicly funded, right?
Yes, we're a nonprofit organization, so we're separate from the courts and separate from the government. So the funding is primarily project-based funding that comes from different places. Some of that can be, depending on the project, the provincial government, some can be the federal government, the Law Foundation, the Law Society. We've had funding in the past from the Canadian Women's Foundation, so it really depends. Like many nonprofits, it's often kind of
Yeah, but is it?
piecemeal.
And I'm not asking these questions because I'm trying to be critical. I'm just asking them as a journalist,
Yeah.
right? So is this also government funded?
So just so I'm aware, are we doing an interview right now?
Well, I'm just here to be in and out. I'm just doing something very quick, right?
Okay.
I'm just doing a really quick story. All I want is just sort of the general ongoings of what this is.
Okay.
And then that's all,
Okay,
right?
sure. Are you comfortable sharing your name and where you work?
I'm an independent journalist.
Okay.
And my first name is Danny.
Okay, nice to meet you, Danny. So
Yeah.
I'm Janet.
Yeah.
So I'm the coordinator at the Journey Project. And so like I said, the funding comes from different sources
Yeah.
depending on the project that is being done. So some of it's provincial,
Yeah.
some of it
So sorry to interrupt you. So when you say provincial, that means the province, right?
Yes.
Okay,
sorry,
so
the
that's
provincial government.
the provincial government, which is public money. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Some of it's federal,
Yeah.
so federal government funding.
Yeah, and people are interested in these types of issues because part of that is also taxpayer money, right?
Yeah.
So it's just ordinary people, like ordinary Joes, right?
Yeah.
Who pay taxes, right? And so they're also curious about where their tax money is going to,
Of
right?
course.
So that's why people like it when I do stories like this, right?
Okay.
Whether I go here or wherever else, right?
Sure.
Because people, the ordinary taxpayer is interested in where
Yeah. Absolutely.
where it's going. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so our organization, like all nonprofit organizations, does annual reports every year where, our financials are open out there, and so those exist. And Danny, do you mind if I ask, are you recording me right now?
Well, the thing is that this is publicly funded, right?
Okay, but Danny, I'm just asking, just for my own knowledge, that are you recording me right now?
This is publicly funded. So all of the people, the officials in a publicly funded are open to the public, right? And so it's all public knowledge, right? And so
I'm not.
yeah, and so all of it is public knowledge, right? It's just like when I go to the courts, right? I'm allowed to film the guards. I'm allowed to film the
I'm
employees.
not saying you're not allowed to. I'm just asking
Uh,
if you are.
I am.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for telling me, Danny.
Yeah.
It's helpful to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I just wanted to say that just for people that are watching too, is that because some people aren't that comfortable, I understand, with being filmed, right?
Yeah.
But what I tell people is that, like, if someone wants to work for a public entity, right, that information, including all of the entities, are public knowledge, right? So I tell people, like, if you don't want to be like filmed, like, go work at a private institution, right? Because whenever I go into a public entity or whatever, like, let's just say, for example, I use the example of the court, right? I can film.
So, Danny, just so we're clear, that's totally fair. Thanks, sir. And do you mind closing the door? I just would have really appreciated to know what was happening in advance.
Yeah.
And so I think I've answered a lot of questions about Plian, the mandate, the Journey Project. You asked some questions about where the funding came from. I answered those. Our walk-in policy is because we serve a lot of different clients and our phone lines are very, very busy. And so
Yeah.
we just want to ensure that we're meeting the direct needs of clients, like, as they're presenting to us.
Yeah.
And so I can appreciate what you're saying, and there's a lot of confidential conversations that can happen in this space.
Exactly.
And so we owe that to our people too.
Exactly.
So you not disclosing that it was being recorded and potentially live streamed is a little bit uncomfortable for me. And I think that that's like a fair boundary for me to have. So what I can do is get you a business card, and if you would like to speak to our executive director about kind of where the funding comes from, what that looks like, etc., he can certainly set up a time. His name is Kevin.
Yeah.
For you to do.
Okay, so just to wrap up, because thank you, you've been very nice to me, right? I just wanted to say that like when it comes to documentation, right? Like of course I'm not going to document confidential information, whether it's documents or private conversations. I'm not going to do that, right? But it's just like when I say, when you watch like NTV, when you watch CBC, the NTV news, when you watch CBC News, and for example, you see court stories. All of that is fair game, right?
Yeah.
Because people don't want to only see small parts, right? So you see the judge, you see the
Yes, very
defendant, the
familiar.
plaintiff, and also you see, for example, like all the officials, right? And so I'm just saying like that, like it's just fair game, right? So I just want to wrap up and say, I think I got a lot of information. One last thing that I was just curious about is that do you do tours at all?
Like of our office?
Yeah.
We would certainly like, if folks wanted to do that, welcome that. I can't do one in this moment.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there's staff on private calls with clients, and we have a walk-in policy for a reason. There's an opportunity to set that up, but we're not going to do that in this moment, and that's a real firm boundary that I'm going to have.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to get document private information or private conversations or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, like just for future reference is that when people are building offices like this, or they're renovating or modifying it or whatever, people have to say that like what's public is within the human eye. So what we can see, right? And so like if you guys want to construct an office, you have to construct it so that the places that you want private are private. You kind of know what I mean? Like there has to be there. So I guess what I'm saying is that people do like, for example, post offices, right? Because those are also public entities, right? And
Jamie, I'm really sorry, but I'm in the middle of doing things right now.
Yeah, I was just the last point that I was making was that like when you go to a post office as a public entity, right? And then sometimes they'll say, oh well, we don't want this part to be recorded, right? But they should have built it so that those places were barricaded off, right? So that was sort of their responsibility. So I guess I was just making a friendly point in saying that like it's kind of good the way it is constructed here, right? Like I'm having a conversation with you, and it is kind of made that way so that the confidential can be differentiated from a public conversation or whatever. And so
I hope, Danny, that you can respect that I invited you in case you did have, go ahead, Kevin, in case you had any confidential questions or things like that you wanted to ask me. And so I appreciate, even though I did have to ask a couple of times, that you did admit that I was being recorded.
Yeah.
But I was trying to do you a courtesy in that moment.
Yeah.
And so I think it can just be good to extend that courtesy back and forth both ways.
Exactly.
So yeah, I appreciate your time. The information is there if you do want to set up a formal interview with our executive director or anyone else.
Okay.
That's part of the Journey Project or Plian. We would welcome that at a time that is set up and that we're prepared for it, because we are in the middle of serving clients right now.
Okay. And you said that you had a card, right?
Yeah, so can you just wait
Okay.
right here?
Yeah.
Oh. So this is all our information here. So that's the website. That's our toll-free phone number. So you can reach out any time and speak to Kevin O'Shea.
Okay, he's the director.
He's the executive director.
Yeah, so if I wanted like just a little more insight or whatever, then provide that for me.
Yes,
All right.
with an appointment.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a
Okay.
lot. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
All right,
Okay. Have a
Danny.
nice day.
You take care.